for. And it's going to have a whole playlist, about 30 hours people are going to be able to watch. And little children will be watching this for years, centuries to come. So here we go, top 1,000 geniuses. So we can see that the ideas we're discussing today are very, very powerful. So here we are here. Now, we have Einstein sitting next to two of the big thinkers in human thermodynamics. So de Donder, he's the Belgian chemist, and he was the one that first derived the equation that was on my shirt yesterday. Here we have the affinity. The affinity of chemical reactions, or the force from microforces between chemicals reacting together, or humans reacting together, is equal to the negative of the partial Gibbs free energy divided by the partial extent of reaction at constant pressure and temperature. So this applies to all reactions going on the surface of the Earth. So the extent of reaction here is the kind of the time variable, and the Gibbs free energy goes on the ordinate, or the vertical axis, and this equation defines all social interactions. So de Donder was the one that derived that. Schrodinger here, he's probably one of the top 5 most famous people when people want to understand what the thermodynamics of life is. Schrodinger published a book in 1944 titled "What is Life?" And he wrote a chapter. He said that life is something that feeds on negative entropy. So a lot of people in the world right now are kind of believing this philosophy, but this is kind of riddled in. It's kind of it's code for saying life feeds on ordered structures, is what he's going to say. When people eat animals or eat food or plants, plant is like a low entropy structure, and so he says life feeds on organized molecules. But anyways, to get back to, if we go down to the geniuses here, you see the number 1 genius of all time is Goethe, and he's ranked by everybody as highest IQ. So the first rankings of genius of IQ was Catherine Cox, who ranked him as IQ 210, number 1 by genius out of 330 people. And then other people started ranking him. He's held the number 1 position through all these different citations, and it's all because of this elective affinities right here, where he says that, so this is the same thing that you did in your book. So it's genius work. What you've done is genius work. So, but he did this 200 years ago, and he did it it was written in German. So Charlotte here is calcium carbonate, and her husband. They're both in their second marriage. Originally, they were married in arranged marriages, but they got divorced because their family arranged the marriages, but it wasn't a good fit. So they broke up, and now they got married again. They're in their 60s, 60 years old, 50s or 60s. So, but their marriage is kind of like a weakly bonded marriage. So he's calcium. So the two of them together are gypsum, or AB. And so they invite Edward's old friend from his youth is the captain, and he's sulfuric acid, or H2SO4. So they invite him in the 4th chapter to come to the state. And so when he mixes in with Edward and Charlotte, she says, I don't want to, he tells his wife, give me some time, I want to go and spend some time with my old friend, the captain, because I haven't seen him in 20 years. So kind of like how I'm coming to visit you, and your wife is over there, and she's like, why are you ignoring me, kind of thing like this. It's the same thing that happened in chapter 4. So in this case, I'm the sulfuric acid, so I'm coming into the big household and displacing carbon trioxide, and you and I are forming a friendship bond for 4 days, about 5 days. So that's what happens in chapter 4 in the novel. And then in the next chapter, they decide, because Charlotte is lonely, kind of like your wife is maybe lonely, she says, we're going to invite one of my old friends to come. So they invite Adelie, who comes to the state. So she comes in the 5th chapter. So she starts hanging out with Charlotte, and the captain's hanging out with the captain. Edward's hanging out with the captain, and then in each chapter they invite new people to come to the state, like the count and the baroness, who are wealthy friends of theirs. They come, but and then they invite Midler, the mediator. They invite the architect who comes to the state, and everybody has different affinities, and you see how the interactions start changing chapter by chapter by chapter. So that's how Goethe is ranked number 1. So, and then we've got Newton number 2 for developing equations of motion. We have Einstein for his work in relativity. Then we have Maxwell number 4 for when you talk about how this is the force that's holding people together. He said it's electromagnetic radiation. This is what it looks like here. So over here, E is when you look at someone or you see something, this is what light looks like going through the air. It's comprised of electromagnetic waves, which is E, going up and down, and then magnetic waves, which is at the perpendicular, going like this. So light is a combination of electromagnetic waves and electric waves and magnetic waves, and it goes through space like this. So when light hits your retina, it changes your behavior, and then your change in behavior, like you raise your eyebrow, sends back another exchange force, and that's the force that holds people together, and that's the force of the human chemical bond. The same way it is with the hydrogen bond. It's just a little more complicated. So then we have Gibbs as number 2. So this is what we're talking about here. When you're talking about the social phase yesterday, and your social phase applied to history, or the phase rule, this is Gibbs' model for phase. So over here he made this is volume on this axis, entropy on this axis, and this is energy over here, and he made 3-dimensional phase. So this model is, once we in the future will be able to make social phase models that look 3-dimensional like this. So there's Willard Gibbs right there. Yep. And then, so Einstein said that Willard Gibbs is the greatest mind in the history of America. And this is pretty much true. Most Americans are so stupid right now that they don't even know who Willard Gibbs is. They're superficially smart. Like in Americans, you're going to go and make lots of gadgets like smartphones, or you can make electrical equipment, or you can just, but for big picture things like this, Willard Gibbs is the most intelligent man in the history of America. And he's the one that's behind the delta G and the reactions. So Mirza Big their ideas are ranked very high here. But so here we are. We have to read that load again here. And we're going to have to wait. We'll have to take a break for 5 minutes. We'll let the page load again.
Okay. चलो पानी हमें पिला दो यार
जी
फिर तुम आ गए हैं
पानी
इसी में लग जाता है यार
अकेले तब बैठ जाता
उसको लॉक करने का कोई सिस्टम बनाओ
So pretty good. Seems like we've made a lot of progress in the last 3 days. Lots of people listening to you talk and listening to me talk. Me asking you questions. It's people that can understand the concepts better now. People will be able to see when you give examples. I gave examples. The young people will be able to learn a lot easier now. I think it's going to help bring about the reaction faster, the revolution. What about you? What's the thing you like the most so far about watching the interview? What captured your attention the most?
The discussions of yours and the debates of yours was very interesting.
Which one? Debate?
Yes, the debates of all the things you were doing on, and the way he replied, because I never knew which subject he's been studying for. You came and then I realized how much he have written for
Yeah,
the whole thing.
yeah. It's yeah, he's a very, very unique person. He's done,
Yeah.
he's progressed. You see, the difference between you and me is that one of the advantages you have of not having access to information is that you were able to move your mind forward to finish the whole book, 200 pages, and finish the book and get it printed. So because I've been slowed down because with the internet and the birth of the internet, that I couldn't bring. I still haven't been able since 2001. I still haven't been able to bring this subject from page 1 to the final page and get it published because this is.
You were stuck in so many.
I'm stuck in so
other
much.
information.
Yeah, I'm stuck in the information that I can't get to the. So that's one thing. So you have progressed farther than I have. That's one thing.
Information is infinity.
Yeah, but now I've got most of it controlled. So now I know if somebody comes with me with new information,
Yeah.
like a new person publishes something, I can read through the article and I can. It's like I can take a knife and just chop it up like this, and I'm done with it because I already know.
Yeah.
I know the big people.
You have so much experience of it, so
Yeah.
you can now.
Now I can go faster through the. So hopefully this one, I will get at least the first, maybe 800 pages, and get this published. I'm trying to get a stop at 800 pages and just make it one book. And
Okay.
yeah, so we'll see. But now that I've got the interview, I got the information from you. I've taken all your information. Yeah.
Here in Pakistan, there's not so much recognition of these type of people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be very.
Yes.
You're going to be, might be in the future, you might be most famous Pakistani of all time. I think so. Like Copernicus is the most famous Polish person.
Oh.
Most famous American is Willard Gibbs.
We hope so. The work of yours do this to him.
Yeah, I think it will. It's going to take some years, I think. Maybe it's going to be at least 10, 20 years before before people start
Recognizing him.
Yeah, before you recognize. But I think like most famous, like Greek is Aristotle. Most
Yeah.
famous Roman is Cicero.
These are the big names which we have studied in schools.
Yeah.
We hope so one day we can read his name
Yeah.
and the works.
Yeah. Someday they're gonna devote an entire university called Big University. They're gonna devote a whole chemistry department, Physico-Chemical, big department of Physico-Chemical Sociology. It's gonna be downtown Karachi, maybe like 100 years from now.
If people like you who promote these types of things are here, so we hope so
Yeah.
that it works
Yeah.
like this.
What about you? What's your name?
Adil.
Adil. What did you like the most so far about watching the two of us talk? Did you watch anything at all or not really?
पूछ रहे हैं कि जो ये दोनों बात करते थे तो तुम्हें क्या पसंद आता था? हैं? जवाब तो दो।
Actually,
He hasn't watched it all. He's too young to understand.
Yeah.
How old are you?
कितने साल के हो?
13.
Oh, 13. Yeah, you probably won't start thinking about it until you turn 15.
तो बोलने लगा 15 साल के हो गए तो समझ में आएगा।
he's too young to understand these types of things.
Yeah, you don't care. I have two nephews.
Oh,
They're old. One is 7. Okay, they're like 8 and 7 and 9 years old right now.
Oh.
I started teaching them some of this stuff. I visit them once a year. I do a classroom for them and we teach them
Oh,
some
that's
things.
good.
Yeah.
that's good.
All right.
All right, Mirza, it's ready to go. We're going to start with chapter 5. We're going to make lots of progress.
Semicolon to mine. There we are.
Affinity, fugacity, and energy. Hey Mirza, how about if I'm going to make a diagram so that we can look at all three of the things on one, the affinity, the fugacity, and the energy on one page. So I'll draw a beaker with some liquid, and then I'll draw the reaction arrow, and then I'm going to draw the free energy, and I'll show the affinity between. I'll draw a couple molecules, and I'll show the affinity between molecules, so that people can see all three concepts in one diagram. How about that? Would that be okay?
Right.
Let me see here. can you tell me if I'm in the screen on it or not?
Yeah, your head is
That's
on
it.
the
That's
borderline.
That's good.
Yes, yes, you are.
Okay. All right, everybody. We're going to dig into today we're starting into chapter 5, Affinity and Socialization, published in 1987 in Mirza Big's New Dimensions in Sociology. So he says here, the attempt in the earlier pages to correlate miscibility in human interaction with the positive and negative deviations of solutions from ideality and consequently the escaping tendency of a component from the solution or of an individual from a society can be dealt with from an angle. The term affinity used in the earlier pages for describing the process of socialization is the liking one species has for the other. This chapter would be concerned with free energy changes or the driving force of social interaction in which affinity plays a major role. So this is a very huge step forward in thinking, in, of course, in the context of all the geniuses of human that have come before us. So right here, Mirza has connected affinity, fugacity, and free energy all in one paragraph, which is very impressive. These are the notes I wrote when I first read this page in 2014. And then, so we're going to read this here. It says, positive and negative deviations from ideality are related to higher or lower escaping tendencies or fugacities in solution. The same, when expressed in terms of free energy changes, imply that the components having higher fugacity in solution are in a state of low free energy and vice versa. You guys can know, because they're going to be here on the video. So the same, when expressed in terms of free energy changes, imply that the components having higher fugacity in solution are in a state of low free energy and vice versa. Thus, the escaping tendency is related inversely to the free energy change of the component. So we're going to draw a diagram of affinity, fugacity, and free energy of a component in a solution, and show how we're just going to show us how these three relate together. So down here he says, affinity and fugacity are also similarly interrelated, and it is found that the higher the affinity or liking of one component, for example, one person for the other, or one person for a society, the lower would be the escaping tendency, which means that they have great affinity for their solution, they want to stay in it. And he says affinities can therefore be measured in terms of free energy changes, and since the two are directly related. So Mirza is stating here what's called the thermodynamic theory of free energy. So before we draw a diagram, I'm just going to show everybody the quick where this proof of what Mirza is saying here came from. So everybody home, just Google thermodynamic theory of affinity, and we're going to see that this was proved in 1882, and it was proved by Helmholtz, and he overthrew what was called the thermal theory of affinity. And so here we have the statement Big just made right there. This is de Donder's book. The person, Theophil de Donder, he's the person, remember in the genius list we saw Einstein he was standing behind Einstein, Theophil de Donder, this is his book. And he published Thermodynamic Theory of Affinity in 1936. But before that, It was, originally there was what's called the thermal theory of affinity. That was put forward by Danish chemist Julius Thomson in 1854 and independently French chemist Marcialin Berthelot in 1864. And they said that the measure of the affinity from species in a reaction beaker is measured by the heat given off from the beaker. And so this didn't, what we found, what showed this was fallacious was that some reactions, when you mix them together, they absorb heat and get colder. So that showed that this theory was in error. So then, in 1882, Helmholtz proved in his thermodynamic theory of affinity that the affinities are measured by, at constant temperature and pressure, is measured by the change in the negative of Gibbs free energy. And this was done so Helmholtz gave this proof in his paper on the thermodynamics of chemical processes, and he showed that the true measure of affinity is not the heat evolved, but rather the free energy, being that the second law of thermodynamics, or rather the entropy, plays a role in the measurement or actuation of a chemical affinity in chemical reactions. So that's what Mirza Big is saying right there. But here's Helmholtz's paper, so we can all see. So what Big is saying in his statement came from this paper, Thermodynamics of Chemical Process, Helmholtz. And Helmholtz is famously known as the last of the last universal geniuses, according to universal genius rankings. And this is a summary of the proof. He says, given the unlimited validity of Clausius's law, it would then be the value of the free energy, not that of the total energy resulting from heat production, which determines in which sense the chemical affinities can be active. So this principle is the founding principle of chemical reactions and sociological reactions. And you agree with this? There's the statement here.
On free energy?
It says, given the unlimited validity of Clausius's law, it would be the value of the free energy, not the total energy resulting from heat, in which determines in which sense the chemical affinities can be active, whether
I consider free energy as the driving force.
Driving force.
Driving force of the reaction.
And it applies for social reactions or small reactions.
The heat would be involved if there is a commotion.
Uh-huh.
Commotion leads to temperature rise, and that heat is one way of forcing a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, if you cool down,
Mm-hmm.
the reaction would be slowed down. So the heat, the induction of heat is the driving force,
Mm-hmm.
and that drives the reactions.
Okay, so you agree that the free energy is the driving force of the reaction,
Yeah.
and it's for sociological reactions.
Yes, in social interaction also it is in free energy is coming from somewhere.
Okay.
Brain, or so inducing stress. Whenever stress is induced in a system, there will be some commotion
Mm-hmm.
in a society. Either it will be acceptable or it will not be acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
If it is acceptable, then the reaction goes on.
Mm-hmm.
If there is no, in case there are constraints, then the reactions will slow down or speed up. It depends on the constraint
Mm-hmm.
that you put up. Now the constraint could be the regulation by law. The constraint could be a police force. The constraint could be a natural event. So that they are the constraints which can retard the flow of